From the outside, Tyler's life looked picture-perfect, quiet street, cozy house, loving family. But under that polished surface was a secret he couldn't shake. It lived in the corners of his reflection, in the quiet moments when no one was watching. He didn't just wonder what it would be like to be a girl, he felt it, lived it in silence, aching for something he couldn't explain. And the more he tried to bury it, the more it refused to stay hidden. Jessica had always been his ally in this unspoken truth. As kids, they'd played dress-up, giggling as they draped scarves and skirts over each other, transforming Tyler into someone who felt a little closer to whole. Their parents had caught glimpses of these moments, Tyler twirling in a borrowed dress, his face lit with a shy joy, and they'd smiled, indulging what they thought was just a game. But for Tyler, it was never just play. It was a glimpse of a life he craved, one he didn't dare voice. When Jessica was barely a teenager, their mother insisted she start taking birth control pills. Jessica complied at first, but the pills made her feel ill, her body rejecting them with a stubbornness that matched her spirit. She stopped taking them, hiding the packets in her room, while their mother, unrelenting, kept buying more, refusing to hear her complaints. The tension between them was a tightrope Tyler learned to sidestep, staying out of the fray. But one day, curiosity drew him to one of those discarded packets. Reading the fine print, he froze. Female hormones. The words sparked something in him, a possibility, a reckless hope. He scoured the internet, piecing together what might happen if a boy took those pills. The information was scarce, vague, but it was enough to ignite a plan. "Jess," he said one afternoon, his voice low, almost casual. "What if I took those pills you're not using?" Jessica's eyes widened, but she didn't hesitate. She handed over her entire stash, a silent pact forming between them. Tyler started with 3 pills a day, a number he'd guessed at, hoping it would be enough to nudge his body toward the shape he dreamed of. Weeks passed, then months, and nothing seemed to change. Doubt crept in, whispering that the internet's promises were just myths, but he kept swallowing the pills, clinging to a fragile hope while bracing for disappointment. Then puberty arrived, unannounced and relentless. A tender ache bloomed in his chest, sharp and persistent, lasting a week before fading into something new, small, undeniable mounds that pushed against his shirts. At first, he dismissed it, blaming his changing body on the growth spurt that was also rounding his hips and softening his frame. But Jessica noticed. "Tyler," she said one day, her voice a mix of awe and worry, "you're starting to look like a girl." His heart leapt and plummeted in the same breath. Elation crashed against terror. This was what he'd wanted, but it was real now, undeniable, and impossible to hide. Tyler began to bury his changing body under baggy clothes, layering sweatshirts to mask the curves that were becoming harder to conceal. His jeans grew snug, clinging to hips that seemed to widen by the day. His chest, unbound, ached from the constant motion, the weight of his small but unmistakable breasts pulling at him. Sometimes, when he bent or stretched, his clothes betrayed him, outlining his new shape in a way that made his stomach twist. He couldn't risk gym class, where changing rooms and prying eyes would expose him. So he skipped it, dodging the questions until a note arrived home, warning that he'd fail without a valid excuse. The reckoning came on a tense evening when his father, a man who prized physical fitness like a religion, hauled Tyler into his office. "Why aren't you going to gym?" he demanded, his eyes boring into Tyler's. The air between them crackled with unspoken expectations, and Tyler felt the weight of his secret pressing against his ribs. He sat there, silent, trapped in a standoff he knew he'd lose. His mother joined them, perching on the edge of the desk, her presence amplifying the pressure. Tyler was an A student in every other subject, so his absence from gym baffled them, and their confusion only deepened their insistence. There was no escape. The truth clawed its way out, and with a trembling resolve, Tyler stood. Without a word, He peeled off his baggy sweater and tucked in his shirt, revealing the gentle curve of his breasts, firm and undeniable. His mother's eyes widened, her jaw tightening. "In your room," she said, her voice sharp as a blade. "Now." In the privacy of his room, she demanded he strip, her gaze clinical as she took in his transformed body, wider hips, a rounded backside, and breasts that stood proud. She grabbed a measuring tape, her movements brisk, almost mechanical, and declared him a full A-cup, his figure now 34 to 22, 34. Tyler braced for an explosion, but instead, his mother left the room without a word. When she returned, she held one of Jessica's bras in her hand. She helped him into it, the fabric pulling his chest into sharp relief, making his new reality impossible to ignore. As the bra settled into place, Tyler felt a strange mix of relief and dread. The secret he'd carried for so long was out, and there was no turning back. The air in Dad's office felt thick, charged with the weight of Mom's withering stare as she thrust a blouse into my hands. "Put it on," she said, her voice clipped, leaving no room for argument. I slipped it over my shoulders, the fabric soft against my skin, and followed her back to the office, my heart pounding like a drum. As we stepped inside, Dad's eyes widened, his gaze flickering over me, taking in the unmistakable outline beneath the blouse. Mom didn't hesitate. "It seems," she said, her tone sharp but steady, "our son has developed a girl's body breasts, wider hips, smooth skin, a narrow waist." The words landed like stones, and I sank into the chair, my shoulders hunching as if I could shrink away from their scrutiny. They demanded answers, their voices pressing in, but I stayed silent, my lips sealed tight. How could I admit I'd been taking Jessica's birth control pills? The truth would drag her into this mess, and I couldn't do that to her. I shrugged, feigning ignorance, but Mom wasn't having it. "No matter how this happened," she continued, her eyes narrowing, "he needs to wear a bra now, every day. But that won't work at school, not like this. Since Tyler won't tell us how this came about, I have a solution." Dad and I leaned forward, the air between us taut. "Tyler will have to start dressing as a girl," she said, her words slicing through the room. "He doesn't have a choice now, not with those." "Mom, no!" I burst out, panic rising like a tide. "I can't go to school as a girl. The kids, they'll tear me apart." Her expression softened. Just a fraction, but her voice held firm. "Tyler, this didn't just happen. You did something to make it happen, which means you wanted this. And now it's here. We have to keep you healthy, and for girls your age, proper undergarments are essential. Don't you see?" Dad, silent until now, leaned back, his voice low and deliberate. "Are you going to tell us how you managed this? Or do we have to guess?" I stared at the floor, my silence a shield, hoping to protect Jessica from their anger. "Have you been taking Jessica's birth control pills?" Dad asked, his words piercing straight through me. My heart sank, heavy and cold, but I kept my mouth shut. "Lily," he said, turning to Mom, "get Jessica in here." Moments later, Jessica stood in the doorway, her eyes darting between us. Dad's voice was deceptively calm. "Jess, do you notice anything different about Tyler?" She glanced at me, her brow furrowing. "He's dressed up like a girl again. We've all seen that before. No big deal." Dad's gaze sharpened. "Look closer." Jessica's eyes lingered, then widened as she saw the way the blouse strained across my chest, the undeniable shape of my breasts. "Yes," Dad said. "Tyler's developed not just breasts, but a body like a girl his age. The only conclusion we can draw is that he took your pills, which means you gave them to him. Anything to say?" Jessica's voice rose, defensive and sharp. "Those pills made me sick. I told Mom, but she didn't listen, so I stopped taking them. Tyler asked for them, so I gave them to him. I didn't know what he was doing." Dad's eyes flicked to Mom, who looked away, her face sour. "I guess I should have paid more attention." Mom admitted, her voice quieter now. The pills never bothered me, so I thought you were exaggerating, Jess. I'm sorry. Dad's tone hardened again, his focus back on me. The fact remains, Tyler. You likely can't go back to how things were. We'll have a doctor check you to be sure. But for now, he said, his eyes locking onto mine, go change. From this moment, you'll wear skirts and dresses here, and if needed, at school. There's a medical reason for this change, so we'll work with the school to register you as a girl. The rest, you'll handle yourself. This is the price of your choices. Within the hour, I stood in front of the mirror, transformed. Panties hugged my hips, the bra lifted my chest, and a skirt swished against my thighs. A pullover top clung to my frame, my longish hair brushed out and secured with a butterfly clip. Mom dabbed blusher and lipstick on my face, spritzed me with perfume, and declared me ready. My old gym shoes were the only piece of myself I recognized. Then came the final blow. Go outside, she said, her voice firm. I froze. I'd never left the house like this, terrified of what my friends would say. But Mom held the door open, and with a gentle push, I stepped into the world as Emily, the girl I'd become. The sunlight felt harsh, exposing as I stood on the porch, my heart racing. Then my worst fear rolled into the driveway on a bike. Logan, my best friend, his eyes squinting as he took me in. Holy cow, he said, his voice a mix of shock and curiosity. Why are you dressed like a girl? Lose a bet or something? I swallowed hard, forcing a casual tone. Or something. He tilted his head, studying me, then shrugged. Want to go riding? The question was so normal, so unchanged, that it threw me. I glanced back at Mom, who nodded and grabbed my bike. As we pedaled away, the wind tugging at my skirt, I felt the weight of Emily settling into place, not just a secret anymore, but a truth I'd have to live, one ride at a time. The bike ride to the park felt like a test I hadn't studied for, the skirt fluttering against my thighs as I pedaled, learning to balance in this new reality. Logan rode beside me, his glances sharp and curious, studying me from every angle. When we stopped by the swings, he propped his bike against a tree and turned to me, his eyes narrowing. Those are real, aren't they? He asked, his voice caught between disbelief and fascination, pointing at my chest. I shifted uncomfortably, the swing creaking beneath me. Yeah, I mumbled. But... You mean you're turning into a girl? His tone sharpened, a mix of shock and something I couldn't quite place. I looked at him, my best friend since we were kids, and wondered how much I could share. The truth was a tangled mess, and with everyone bound to find out soon, I owed him something real. Yeah, I guess, I said, my voice low. Mom says I have to wear proper undergarments now, and these. I gestured vaguely at my breasts. They stick out, so Dad thinks I should just dress like a girl until they figure out what's going on. Logan grinned, a glint of mischief in his eyes. Well, at least you got a nice pair. I rolled my eyes, forcing a laugh. Very funny. I wasn't about to tell him this was my doing, my secret plan set in motion with Jessica's pills. We lingered at the park, the swings swaying gently as we talked about nothing important, but his eyes kept drifting back to me, making my skin prickle with nerves. He didn't press, though, and when we rode back to my house, he just said he'd swing by after church tomorrow. Church. The word hit like a brick. If Dad was serious about me dressing as a girl, tomorrow would be my unveiling, not at school on Monday, but in front of everyone we knew, in the pews where we'd sat for years. I burst into the house, my heart racing, only to be stopped by Mom's sharp voice. Girls don't run like that, Emily. Control yourself. The name stung, grounding me in this new identity. I turned to her, my voice trembling. Do I really have to go to church? In a dress? Her eyes softened, but her nod was firm. Yes, dear, you do. She took my hand, guiding me to the kitchen table, her grip both gentle and unyielding. Jessica told me you've been on those pills for a while, Emily. That was some long-term planning. You knew what they'd do, didn't you? Waited for your body to change? I sank into the chair, my head dipping as her words pinned me in place. I checked your computer, she went on, her voice steady but piercing. You researched what happens when boys take birth control pills. Don't lie to me, you wanted this, didn't you? I felt my face flush, my head nearly touching the table as the weight of her words settled over me. She lifted my chin, her touch firm but not unkind. Tell me, she said softly. The truth spilled out before I could stop it. I've always wanted to be a girl, Mom. When Jess and I played dress-up, it felt right, like I was finally me. But I didn't expect it to happen so fast. Her eyes searched mine, a mix of frustration and something like understanding flickering there. We always knew you liked dressing up, honey, but this? This was reckless. I'm not sure, but I'd wager the doctor will say this can't be undone. You might be a girl forever. Is that what you want? I nodded, my throat tight, unable to speak the word yes, but meaning it with every fiber of my being. She sighed, her shoulders softening. Well, it looks like you'll get your wish. Tomorrow, you'll wear a nice dress to church. But tonight, let's work on your hair. Maybe it'll help you feel ready. I retreated to my room, the weight of the day pressing down on me. In the mirror, I caught sight of myself, Emily, not Tyler, and my hands drifted to my chest, feeling the firmness, the way my nipples hardened under my touch. It was real, undeniable, and faster than I'd ever imagined. I'd been fooling myself, thinking I could control this, keep it hidden. The truth had outrun me. Drawn to Jessica's room, I sifted through her closet, my fingers landing on a white dress sprinkled with tiny flowers. It felt like a promise, soft and delicate, matching the low white heels I'd bought in secret, my one act of defiance before all this began. Jessica appeared, her eyes soft as she handed me pantyhose, a pair of earrings, and a necklace she always wore with that dress. You'll look good, she said quietly, and I dragged it all back to my room, resolve hardening in my chest. If I was going to be Emily, I'd have to be her fully walking, talking, living like any other girl my age. At dinner, Dad's anger simmered beneath his silence, his fork clinking against his plate, as Jessica and I chatted about clothes skirts I could borrow, a makeup kit I'd need soon. Mom nodded along, agreeing I'd need my own supplies, and I thought Dad might choke on his food. The thin top I wore left no doubt about my body, and his own rule meant I'd be dressing as a girl from now on. Mom turned to him, her voice calm but firm. I don't like this either, but we have to make sure she's presentable. There's no other way. The word she hung in the air, a quiet acknowledgement of who I was becoming, and as I met her gaze, I felt the first flicker of acceptance, fragile but real, in the space between us. After dinner, the air still heavy with unspoken tensions, Mom, Jessica, and I headed to the store, the neon glow of the mart beckoning like a new chapter. As we wandered through aisles of lingerie, I felt a quiet thrill, no longer a shadow sneaking glances at things I longed for, afraid of being caught. I belonged here now, picking out panties and bras that were mine, not borrowed, each item a small claim to the girl I was becoming. Mom added a few extras, delicate earrings, a pair of flats to complement my heels, and I carried the bags home with a strange mix of pride and disbelief. That night, in the soft light of my bathroom, Mom washed my hair, her fingers gentle as she set rollers, handing me a nightgown that felt like a whisper against my skin. Lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling, wondering what Dad's next move would be. His silence at dinner wasn't acceptance, it was a storm gathering strength. I knew my time was short, a few days at most before his frustration boiled over, so I resolved to embrace every moment as Emily, drifting to sleep with a smile, my plan taking shape. Morning came, and I moved through my routine with deliberate care. In the bathroom, I tucked what remained of my old self out of sight, a small act of defiance against the body I was leaving behind. The pantyhose slid up my legs, their sheen making them look longer, shapelier, a sensation that sent a shiver of joy through me. The new bra was a struggle, but I managed, its support grounding me as I opened my makeup kit. The foundation blended seamlessly, and I experimented with green eyeshadow and a touch of tan highlighter, framing my eyes with liquid eyeliner and a soft pencil. Slipping the white dress with its delicate flowers over my head, I zipped it up, marveling at how it hugged my frame as perfectly as it once had Jessica's. No padding, just me, real, undeniable. I stepped into my heels, the click against the floor, a quiet anthem of my transformation. When I called for Mom, she appeared, her eyes softening as she brushed out my hair, wielding a curling iron to sculpt soft waves. "Darling," she said, stepping back to admire her work. "It suits you." She left me to finish, and I added Jessica's perfume, a spritz of confidence, along with blusher and pale red lipstick. The gold cross I'd always worn nestled between my breasts, a piece of Tyler anchoring Emily. With my white purse slung over my shoulder, I descended to the kitchen, where Dad stood pouring coffee, his back stiff. I braced myself, pouring a glass of juice and sitting across from him, the silence between us thick as fog. He looked up, his eyes tracing my face, my dress, the shape of me. "You look very nice, Emily," he said, his voice softer than I'd expected. "Thanks, Dad," I replied, daring a small smile. "You do too." He leaned back, his gaze steady. "Is it true, what you told your mom? That you've always wanted this? That dress-up was when you felt happiest?" I nodded, cautious. "Yeah." His jaw tightened. "I'll never understand why you took those pills. Never. But it's done, and there's nothing I can do about it yet. Still, you're grounded not for this, but for lying, for hiding your trouble at school. You'll go to school as a girl, like I said. Your mom will go with you tomorrow to explain. You come straight home after, no leaving the yard unless we say so. Clear?" "Yes, sir," I said, my heart pounding but relieved. Grounded was nothing compared to what I'd feared. He left the room, and I exhaled, the weight of his words settling. The real test wouldn't come from him, it would be the kids at school. I needed them to see me as Emily, to believe in my transformation. A plan flickered to life. Let some of the girls see my breasts, proof that this wasn't a costume. But as the family bustled into the kitchen, I pushed the thought aside. Church loomed ahead, a public debut I couldn't escape. In the car, Mom slipped wrist-length white gloves onto my hands, her touch gentle but firm. "You should be properly dressed," she said. I'd never seen girls my age wear gloves to church, not outside old photos, but I didn't argue, letting them stay as we pulled up to the cathedral. The bright, airy sanctuary glowed with morning light, faces turning as we walked in. Sophie and her brother Ethan were there, Madison with her parents, Liam beside his mom. My stomach twisted as I spotted my grandparents, their eyes lingering on me, questions forming in their gazes. I held my purse tighter, the gloves a strange armor, and stepped forward as Emily, ready or not, into the sea of familiar faces now seeing me for the first time. My grandparents' faces were a blur in the crowded church, their rare visits making their presence feel like a spotlight I couldn't escape. As we walked past, their eyes slid over me without a flicker of recognition, but the weight of their gaze promised trouble. My life, already teetering, felt like it was about to crash. Sophie flashed a warm smile, but Madison's stare lingered, her eyes widening as realization hit. Liam's glance was sharper, more questioning. The Mass dragged on for its usual hour, a haze of hymns and sermons, and as we filed out, Liam grabbed my arm, slowing my steps. "Tyler," he said, his voice low, uncertain. "Is that you?" "Her name is Emily now," Mom interjected smoothly, her tone firm but kind. "She used to be Tyler, but something changed in her body chemistry, and she's been developing as a girl. She didn't tell us until recently, and we've decided this is best for her. We hope you'll support her." Madison's eyes flicked to my chest, her voice barely a whisper. "Does that mean those are real?" I nodded, heat rising in my cheeks as their stares pinned me in place. Before I could say more, my grandparents approached, and Mom introduced me as Emily. Pop remained calm, his face unreadable, but Nana's eyes turned to slits, red-hot and piercing, her smile twisting into a grimace. Mom quickly took her arm, steering her and Pop aside, leaving me with Liam and Madison. "Your Nana doesn't seem thrilled about this change, Emily," Liam said, his tone cautious. Sophie and Ethan joined us, Madison whispering my old identity to them. Sophie's face lit up with a grin, but Ethan's eyes raked over me, head to toe, sending a shiver down my spine. "So," Sophie said, her voice bright, "you'll be dressing like this at school? If you've got, well, almost a girl's body." "My parents think it's easier this way," I said, trying to sound steady. "Mom says I need the right undergarments, and wearing a bra with my old clothes would be a nightmare. I think she's right, this is better." Ethan smirked. "This'll be wild. When some guys figure out who you are, they'll lose it, especially if they hit on you." I glanced at Mom, still deep in conversation with my grandparents, praying she was keeping the pill story buried. Jessica was off chatting with a friend, leaving me alone as the minister's wife approached, her smile polite but strained. "And you are?" she asked. "Emily," I said, and her eyes darted to my family, piecing it together. She swallowed hard, wished me a nice day, and hurried off. When my parents rejoined us, Dad's voice was low and firm. "We told your grandparents you're developing as a girl, which is why you're dressed like this. We didn't mention the pills that stays between us." He looked at Jessica, who nodded quickly. "As far as anyone else knows, this is a freak of nature, and we're handling it. Until the doctor says otherwise, Emily, you're not to become some spectacle. Understood?" I nodded, the weight of his words settling in as we headed to the car. On the way home, Dad pulled over in front of Mom's beauty salon, telling us to call when we were done. The shop was quiet, the air thick with the scent of shampoo and chemicals. Mom explained she wanted my hair cut and styled for easy maintenance, adding with a small smile, "Most girls your age know how to do their own hair, and since this might take a while, you might as well enjoy it." A woman emerged from the back, short, round, with dishwater blonde hair and a pasty face, her deep-set eyes sizing me up. I wanted to bolt, but Mom's hand on my shoulder kept me rooted. Soon I was in the chair, my hair washed and trimmed, rollers set as the hum of the dryer enveloped me. I sat there, the heat lulling my nerves, wondering how I'd face school tomorrow, how I'd prove I was Emily, not just Tyler in a dress, and whether the world would ever see me the way I saw myself. Under the hum of the dryer, the woman took my hands, her sigh heavy as she began cleaning my nails with a sharp-scented chemical. She filed them deftly, smoothing them with a sponge-like tool before applying a white paste, shaping it with an orange stick and thin paper forms to extend my nails just a touch. They gleamed under her brush as she painted them, and she slid my hands into a box glowing with blue light to set them. As my hair dried, she checked it, then stepped away to confer with Mom, their voices a blur beyond the glass. I sat there, trapped in the chair, admiring my longer nails but fretting about my hair. Glancing at her dishwater blonde bob and tired eyes, I couldn't shake the fear she'd ruin it. But when she returned, removing the rollers and working with quiet precision, I watched in the mirror as she sculpted my hair into soft, feminine waves that framed my face perfectly. "It's amazing," I said, unable to hide my delight, and her smile softened her face. She trimmed my eyebrows with a small clipper, then announced she was done, adding that the soft perm would make styling easier for months. "A perm?" I thought, startled but intrigued. Mom paid without a word, and we stepped outside, the late afternoon light casting long shadows. Instead of heading home, Mom led me down the sidewalk, past shop windows aglow with promise. Your father thinks some magic pill from the doctor will fix this, she said, her voice low. But we know better, don't we? I glanced over at her, confused, and she clarified. You took those pills knowing they'd change you, because being a girl was your deepest desire. That's what your father can't grasp. We paused on a bench, the world slowing around us. No matter what happens, you'll always want this, and you'll probably succeed. But your dad's a macho guy. He wanted you to be like him, not me. She took my manicured hand, her voice softer. Tell me, Emily, do I like boys? Is that it? Am I gay? I shook my head, cheeks warming. No, Mom, it's not about guys. I just wanted to be a girl, to have the right parts, to feel right. I've always felt like a girl inside, and look at me. I'm better as Emily than I ever was as Tyler. You see it too, don't you? She nodded, her eyes soft and warm on me. Yes, honey, I do. But we need to find a way to explain this to your father, without making him feel he's failed you. He wanted a son like him, and though he won't say it, he knows that's gone. It's a lot for him. He grounded me forever, I said, my voice catching. He says it's for lying about school, not this. But I wasn't have trouble, Mom. I was changing, and I couldn't let anyone know. I didn't expect the pills to work so fast. I didn't have a choice. Mom's gaze was steady. I understand why you hid it. Your dream was coming true. But you've put us in a tough spot. Even if we get you back into school, there are hurdles. Restrooms, for one, you might not care, and maybe the kids won't either, but some parents will. They'll fight to have you removed if we're not careful. Then there's your name. Emily isn't legal, so we might need to change it just for school. And boys, once they forget who you were, they'll notice you. I can't imagine what your dad will think then. Doesn't matter, I muttered. I'm grounded for life, remember? She smiled, a small, knowing curve of her lips, and patted my knee before calling Dad. He pulled up minutes later, his eyes flicking to my hair, but saying nothing as he drove us home. In my room, I found Jessica waiting, a pile of clothes in her arms. She shut the door softly. These are yours now, she said, her voice quiet but warm. And you can borrow anything else you need. She hugged me, a quick, fierce embrace, then left. I changed into a short skirt and top, slipping ankle socks over my pantyhose and lacing up my gym shoes. Sitting at my desk, I opened my email. The glow of the screen, a small anchor in the storm of the day, my new nails clicking softly on the keys as I braced for whatever came next. The front door creaked open, and I bounded down the stairs, my skirt flaring, my hair swaying, and my chest bouncing with each step. Logan stood in the foyer, his grin wide and easy. Want to ride again? He asked, his eyes bright. I shook my head, remembering Dad's rules. Can't, grounded, but we can hang on the patio. We grabbed sodas from the fridge, Mom watching silently as we settled on the steps overlooking the yard. Logan's gaze flicked to my hair, then my nails, gleaming in the afternoon light. New haircut, huh? And those nails? Mom says it'll be easier to manage, I said, flexing my fingers. I'm supposed to get ready on my own now, and this helps. He nodded, his smile warm. Looks good on you, Emily. I like it. I blushed, murmuring a quiet, thanks. The door opened again, and my grandparents appeared. Nana's face had softened slightly, no longer promising to devour me whole, but her lips were still a tight line. Pop beckoned Logan over, leaving me alone with Nana on the steps. She sat beside me, her voice low but sharp. Your mother says you're turning into a girl. Is that true? I nodded, bracing myself. Well, she continued, her tone skeptical, I've never heard of such a thing. I'm starting to wonder if this is some kind of trick. Her words stung, igniting a spark of defiance. I'd had enough of her doubt. Standing, I lifted my top and bra, letting my breasts stand bare for a moment, before tucking myself back together. Satisfied? I snapped, sarcasm dripping from my voice. You never believed me before, Nana, so I'm not shocked you don't now. Why would you trust Mom or Dad either? I rose, my voice steady. I don't care what you think. This is me, and we're all stuck with it. I stormed inside, catching Mom stepping back from the window. I told Nana where she can shove her attitude, I said, brushing past her. I'm going to my room. Barely 2 minutes passed before Mom followed, shutting the door behind her. Your Nana's confused, Emily. Did you really flash her? She said we were lying, I shot back. So I proved her wrong. I don't care what she thinks, Mom. I'm the girl I want to be, and if she doesn't like it, she can leave. I'm not changing for her. Mom's eyes softened. She loves you, honey. She just doesn't understand. What more can I do? I cried, my voice cracking. She's not blind. Mom sighed. Come downstairs. She won't bite. I'm warning you, I said, my jaw tight. If she starts in on me, I'm not holding back. She's just like Dad must be where he gets it. But I'm a girl, and she'll have to deal with it. The doorbell saved me, ringing through the house. In the foyer, Sophie, Ethan, and Logan stood, Sophie and Logan hand in hand. I told Mom I'd be outside and slipped out, shutting the door on Nana's judgment. Ethan stayed close as we wandered to the backyard, Sophie chatting about a party she was hosting next Saturday. Can you come? She asked. I'm grounded, I said, glancing at Ethan's hopeful smile as he grabbed my hand. But I'll ask. I thought I saw Logan flinch, but I shook it off. Dad appeared, his expression unreadable. Sophie piped up, Can Emily come to our party next Saturday? We'll see, Dad said, his voice flat. I need to talk to Emily alone. Sophie waved, calling, See you at school tomorrow, as they left. Dad sat beside me, his sigh heavy. We're not doing well, are we? Who's we? I asked, my tone sharp. You and me, he said. I'm disappointed, Emily. I expected you to be more manly, I cut in, my voice tinged with sadness. With this body? You're kidding, right? I weighed 118 pounds on a good day, Dad. No body hair, not even a whisker. Some guys in my class shave daily, I don't. Never have. That doesn't explain why you didn't tell me how you felt, he said, his voice low but firm. I laughed bitterly. Yeah, right. I can just imagine it me telling you I wanted to be a girl, asking for hormones to get the body I dreamed of. You'd have lost it. His silence confirmed I wasn't wrong, and I looked away, the gap between us wider than ever, but my resolve as Emily stronger than ever. I held Dad's hand, my newly manicured nails pressing into his palm. You would have gone ballistic, I said, my voice steady but earnest. You'd have dragged me to your gym every night, trying to make a man out of me. But look at me, Dad. I'm better as a girl, you know it. I told Mom I look better now than I ever did as a boy, and I'm right. He sighed, his eyes tracing my face, the dress, the undeniable shape of me. Perhaps, he said, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. But your Nana's furious, Emily. After you flashed her, she won't even talk to me about this. He paused, then let out a low chuckle, surprising me. That must have been something, shocking her like that. I bet her face was priceless. She thought we were lying, Dad, I said, my frustration spilling over. She was mad, so I told her to take a hike. I can't fight everyone, especially her. School's going to be rough enough tomorrow without her piling on. He nodded, his expression softening. I overreacted, Emily. This tension's tearing us apart, and you clearly feel you did the right thing. So I'll take you to school tomorrow and sort it out. If the doctor confirms what we think, I'll even change your name. But you're grounded until we see him, no going anywhere but school. Understood? Can I go to Sophie's party? I asked, hope creeping into my voice. We'll see, he said, his tone non-committal, but not harsh. Can we start over? I leapt up, wrapping my arms around him in a fierce hug, the first time he'd ever admitted he might be wrong. We walked inside together, a fragile truce settling between us. Jessica was waiting, grabbing my hand and pulling me to her room. I need to see you, she said, her voice serious. Naked! With the door locked, I stripped down to my panties, standing vulnerable before her. "Damn," she whispered, her eyes wide as she took in my rounded hips, my breasts, my narrow waist. As I dressed again, she noticed my nails, and I told her about the salon, Mom's words echoing in my mind. Jessica and I had always been close, but now it felt deeper, like she was seeing the real me for the first time. She was everything I aspired to be: confident, vibrant, and her acceptance made my heart swell. The next morning, Mom woke me early. After a quick shower, I started with a skirt and blouse, but changed my mind, slipping into the pale blue dress with its delicate flower print. I applied my makeup carefully: foundation, a touch of eyeshadow, eyeliner, then brushed my hair, watching it spring back into its permed waves. Pantyhose, heels, and a swipe of lipstick completed the look. I grabbed my purse and book bag, nerves tingling as I headed downstairs. After a quick breakfast, Dad and I drove to school, my stomach nodding at the thought of the confrontation ahead. Our principal, Mrs. Hargrove, was a woman of rigid beliefs. Men were men, women were women, and anything else was an affront to her worldview. She'd clashed with students like Jason, who wore more makeup than she did, his black lipstick and eyeliner a daily rebellion, or Ava, with her near crew cut and impossibly short skirts paired with flannel shirts. The school board had reined her in after she targeted Jason at an assembly, their president reminding her, "We were just as wild in our day, remember the no-bra look?" Since then, kids pushed boundaries, teetering on the edge of expulsion without crossing it. I'd dressed carefully, hoping my modest outfit would meet her standards, but I braced for trouble, knowing her mood could swing on a dime. We wove through the bustling hallways, kids rushing to class. Some smiled, a few said hi, but most barely noticed me. In the office, Dad requested to see Mrs. Hargrove, and we were ushered into her domain. She sat behind her desk, her severe suit as unyielding as her expression, and I couldn't help but wonder if her corset was cutting off her air. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her voice clipped, her eyes flicking between Dad and me, ready for whatever battle we'd brought to her door. Dad squared his shoulders, facing Mrs. Hargrove's skeptical gaze. "There's been a development in our family that's affected Tyler," he began, his voice steady. She tilted her head, a faint smile flickering. "I know you. You filled in as a coach 2 years ago, didn't you?" "Glad I could help," Dad replied, nodding. "But we're here because Tyler's undergone dramatic physical changes, and we need your help to ensure he can still attend school." Her eyes settled on me, narrowing as she processed the sight of my dress, my hair, my shape. "Where's Tyler?" she asked, then froze, realization dawning. This girl is Tyler?" "Yes," Dad said firmly. "Tyler's developed a girl's body, and rather than subject him to ridicule for his attributes, we decided it's best for him to present as a girl. He goes by Emily now." Her face tightened, every prejudice she held flashing across her eyes as they lingered on my blouse, stretched taut over my breasts. "I see," she said, her tone clipped. "You want me to admit Tyler as a girl because of some alleged development?" "Alleged?" Dad's voice sharpened, a rare edge of anger breaking through. "I'm not used to being called a liar, madam, nor am I thrilled about my son dressing as a girl, but there's no other way for him to attend school without being mocked." Mrs. Hargrove leaned back, her expression smug, as if she'd caught us in a ruse. "I'll have the nurse examine her," she said, picking up the phone. "If the nurse confirms your claims, I'll admit her, provided she follows the dress code. She looks appropriate today, so I see no issue, and I'll ensure her safety. But if she's not as you say, I'll report this to the school board for appropriate action. Agreed?" "Of course," Dad said, his jaw tight. The nurse, Ms. Foster, entered, and Mrs. Hargrove gave her a quick nod. "Go with her, Emily," Dad said. "Do as she says." Ms. Foster, about Mom's age with 3 daughters, one in my class, led me to her office. I stripped off my blouse, skirt, and bra, standing vulnerable as she examined me, her fingers gentle but thorough, ensuring my breasts were real. She sighed, her eyes kind. "I've heard of this before, Emily, but you're the first I've seen. You're a girl in every way that matters. Get dressed and head back." She reported to Mrs. Hargrove, and after a brief discussion, I was handed a new ID card, reassigned from gym to a computer lab class. As I walked to my first period, the weight of the real test settled in, not the office, but the classroom. I slipped into my seat, feeling every pair of eyes on me. Some kids recognized me instantly, their whispers buzzing like static. I held my head high, focusing on the lesson until lunch, when a group of bully boys loomed over my table. Ethan and Stan sat with me, tense but silent, until Liam appeared behind them, his voice low and firm. "Take a hike." His reputation as someone who didn't back down sent them scattering, and I exhaled, grateful for his quiet strength. Tuesday brought the doctor's visit, a thorough exam that left no question unanswered. "You're perfectly healthy, Emily," he said, addressing me directly. "Even with massive testosterone doses, I doubt you could revert to your former self. The wisest course is to continue your development as a girl." He handed Mom a prescription for hormones to guide my maturation, his tone matter-of-fact but kind. Dad's face crumpled. Mom's eyes dimmed with resignation, but she pressed further. "Is there a way, short of surgery, to make her look fully female, down there?" After a tense debate, Dad relented. The doctor ushered them out, and I lay on the table, nerves tingling. Half an hour later, he finished a procedure that reshaped me, and when I grasped myself, the last trace of Tyler was gone. As I dressed, the doctor stepped out to speak with my parents, leaving me to absorb the finality of who I was becoming Emily, fully and irrevocably. By the time we pulled into the driveway, a quiet joy bubbled inside me. I no longer had to hide, no longer had to shrink into the shadows. I could join pajama parties, take swimming classes, kick a ball on the girls' soccer team. Every door open to any other girl was open to me. In my room, Mom insisted on seeing the doctor's work, and as I revealed the final piece of my transformation, her face softened, resignation giving way to acceptance. "Don't leave your room uncovered," she warned gently. "Your father doesn't need to see that." Jessica, less shocked but wide-eyed, declared me perfect, her approval a warm anchor in the whirlwind of change. At school, most kids let me blend in, their indifference a small mercy. The girls' restroom ceased to be a battleground after a quick adjustment in the stall revealed my breasts. To a few curious onlookers, no one questioned me after that. I grew adept at my routine, mastering makeup and hair, slipping into dresses with ease, each act a quiet affirmation of Emily. Boys hadn't been part of my dream, a detail I'd never considered. But as I wove into the social fabric parties, games, casual hangouts, I noticed myself choosing outfits with care when I knew certain guys would be there. Brooke caught it first, her grin sly as she leaned in one day. "Liam and Ethan are dying to ask you out, you know." I laughed it off, but her words lingered, a new thread in the tapestry of my life. By summer, my body had matured, curves softening into something almost womanly. I felt at home in my skin, no longer an outsider. Pajama parties with friends, laughter echoing late into the night, and the rhythm of soccer practices grounded me. Dating hadn't crossed my mind until Ethan asked me out, a moment that shifted everything. Dad's face clouded when I told him, his voice heavy. "A date?" "It's been 7 months, Dad," I said, my tone gentle but firm. "I'm the same age you let Jessica start dating." He shook his head, his eyes distant. "It's not that. It's just—" I didn't let him finish. I climbed onto his lap, wrapping my arms around his neck like I had as a child. "Daddy, I've always been a girl inside, even when I was little. Now it's true on the outside. I can't be the son you wanted, but I can be your daughter if you'll let me." "But you—" he started, his voice breaking. You tolerated me as a girl, but you never accepted it, I said softly. You kept hoping I'd be your son again. It's written all over your face every time you look at me. But that's not going to happen. All I want is for you to love me for who I am, not who I was or who you wanted. He pulled me close, his cheek against mine, and I felt the warmth of his tears. We sat there, time stretching endlessly, until he whispered, "You'll dress appropriately, right?" "No." "Daddy," I grinned, pulling back. "I'm not that kind of girl." "What kind are you, Emily?" "Your little girl," I said, my voice steady. "Always." He let me go on the date, and though it wasn't easy for him, our bond grew stronger, his unease fading like morning mist. Mom treated me like Jessica from the moment my body fully reflected my truth, always there for questions about makeup or boys. Her guidance a quiet gift. Dad stopped questioning my choices, though he drew the line when Liam suggested I stay over after a party, a rule he'd have set for Jessica too, so I let it slide. In my senior year, Dad gave me a ring, a small diamond, flanked by our birthstones, a silent declaration of his acceptance. Jessica and Mom knew it too, their smiles mirroring mine. My journey hadn't been easy, my own struggle to claim who I was, the pills and their consequences, Mom's confusion over why a boy would choose this, Jessica's role as my mentor, sharing her clothes and wisdom. Dad's battle was the hardest, watching his son become his daughter, each step a rejection of his macho ideals, the belief that men held a slight edge in equality. Accepting me took everything he had, but he kept me safe, never once lashing out. My grandparents, Dad's parents, softened over time, their initial anger giving way to a grudging truce as they realized I'd never be their grandson again. Now, as an adult, I look back without pain. I was right all along, though gloating feels hollow. Dad's waiting to drive me to my graduation, his pride evident in the photos we took, especially the one of us together. His eyes say it all. He loves me, not the son he lost, but the daughter I've become.